Good evening. I am ready to get going. So thank you if you're here for pitching. Woohoo! And if you join later, you're probably going to miss this intro. But tonight I wanted to look at... let me take a step back. I need to prepare 2 hours of course material on an introduction to Async PHP. And I am so far behind in schedule, but here we are. This is what I'm preparing now. So I need to have a look at the two prevailing popular frameworks, Async PHP and React, refresh my memory about how they work, see if I can put together a little proof of concept in both of them. I'd like to include HTTP and WebSockets, and maybe take a brief look at database work. And then, if I have time, I'd like to look at Draft PHP, or Drift PHP, I think it's called, which is like a PHP framework built around React and an async version of Doctrine RM. And maybe there's another extension-based async PHP framework, the name of which escapes me at the moment, but I need to check that out as well. I should probably... there we go, that's better. Now I can hear myself a bit better. So that's what I'm doing today. This isn't structured, it's not... the work I do today is not necessarily what's going to be in the course, but this is to try and get like a good understanding, or a better understanding for me, about how much content I can fit in within 2 hours, and what makes sense, what works well. So that's what I'm doing now. I think I'll start off with React PHP. So let me do this. I have browsers that shouldn't be there. Okay, so React PHP. Lovely. Very succinct example. Okay, I'll start off with that. Let me take source, Async PHP React. Okay, let's do that. Now I need to... Oh, where is the... where is the getting started? I mean, this is... Okay, so maybe this is a good thing to think about, is potentially a PR to do the composer install to get this going, because this isn't useful on its own. I don't know what to import. So quick start example, that looks similar to the one that's here, except it doesn't qualify the classes properly. Okay, but where is the composer command? Okay, so let's run this quickly. This will make a composer JSON file and install React HTTP and its dependencies. So I should be able to do this. That's my goal there. Okay, but where were the docs for this? Where's the website? Branding? No. Copy that, add a personal access token. You don't need to check any of the scopes. Composer install. This is a static site. I guess not. That's interesting. Okay, not sure what to make of that. I just wanted to have a look to see if I could get the... No. If I could get the data for the home page to be able to add some stuff in there, but this looks a little but like I'm gonna have trouble editing this. Why is my mail app popping up the whole time? Data, what's in here? Yes, all that mess. Update our articles. Maybe it's in here. Ah, perfect. Okay, so I'd have to edit this to add that in there. Okay, I know for next time I'm not going to do that now. No ways. Okay, so let's make a source directory. I don't know, some people like src. Src is actually the prevailing folder name for this, but I like source because it's very clear. Index, I don't know if I like index here. Let's change this to server. Okay, back here, copy this code. Ooh, I need to be in that file to do it. There we go. Okay, I don't have automatic code formatting on this. That sucks. Yeah, some code things I don't like, but whatever. I really don't like that. Really don't like that. I think these things could be aliased. I think this could be aliased. I hate having to deal with the PSR object because it's so verbose. Let's give this a go. Oh. So that is not the only command I need, clearly. I seem to need the event loop as well. Is there like a wrapper around this? Let me see, is there a wrapper around this where I can... Not really. I just want to include like a whole... I just want to include a whole app that installs this, so I don't have to. I guess I'm out of luck. Maybe I should close that. Less distraction. Here we go. No drop frames. Cool. So that's done. Can I start it now? Nope. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I remove this. Hold on. Let me see if I remove this, if it's still there. React. Event loop. It is still there, so that's not the problem. React event loop factory. Event loop factory. Man! That's the problem. Okay, I wasn't including the composer autoloader. So even though the dependency was there as a nested dependency, even though it was there as a nested dependency, I wasn't including composer's autoloader, so I didn't know how to find that. Okay. So this is what that looks like. Hello world. Very cool. What other dependencies are in there? I've got event loop, DNS, promise, socket, HTTP server, nope, chat server, I don't think that's what I want. What is from a ring central? PSR7. Interesting dependencies here. Okay, I want to do some WebSockets. Do I still need to ratchet? Okay, cool. Cool. So Ratchet appears to still be outside of the React PHP thing. Very cool domain. Sock it to me. Okay. Composer required this mess. So I should be able to combine this into the HTTP server that's already running. Ooh. No. Let's have a look at the Hello World example. How do you fold this in? IO server factory new chat. HTTP server listen, and HTTP socket server. Is there no easy way to do this? I want to do this. I want to use React's HTTP server to listen for this stuff, because here it's easy enough to add in a router in this step. But and I can use other React environmental stuff in here, but I want to be able to use Ratchet just for handling WebSockets. So let me rename this to HTTP server. Okay. Make a WS server. Which looks like, I don't know. Let's do this. Oh. Let's chat. Something like that. Oh. Okay. So what does this do? On message, sends the message back. Oh, okay, but to each client that didn't send this message. So I'm just going to comment that out so that I get the message back. Oh, bit messy code, but anyway. Okay, let's try this. So this will be a long-running process. So WS server. That is listening on port 8080. So here I need to say, I mean this is, if I reload this I'm going to get an error, but in console I can say var socket is new WebSocket WS127. 8080. Damn. Bro. Damn. Is that optional? It's in the console here. New connection. Connection 40 is disconnected, like immediately. Cool. So every time I hit this, I'm gonna get a new connection that disconnects immediately. Cool, 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 cool. What does this tell me to do in that case? Run that. Run that mess. Localhost. Curious. Is that gonna make a difference? Was that pointing to the wrong place? Who knows? At least it's the same now. Oof, this music is intense. Oh, it's not gonna work. What am I doing? No, it disconnects immediately though, so that's obviously not gonna work. What is going on with this? Did I bring Ratchet in? Yes, I did. That shouldn't be an issue. I have some use statements, I define a class. Just make this inline. Woo! New class implements. Does that work? Who knows? Oh, let's sort these alphabetically. Better. Okay. Mess, but less names in the global namespace. That's not going to work. Why did I do that? Run that and then telnet into this. I just don't understand how to do this properly. I don't want to do this namespace. This should be discoverable without namespacing it, right? Chat server at 8080. Execute that. Telnet in next steps. Run this thing. So this is wrapping IO factory, IO server factory HTTP web server new chat. Yes, because I'm not importing that namespace yet. Oh, I'm also not importing the WS server either. I have a problem. It is alphabetically ordering. Okay. Connection interfaces over here, HTTP servers there, message component there, IO server, WebSocket server. So maybe this handles the net traffic better than just basic telnet traffic. What happens if I put the stuff in here now and try to connect to it? Connection established. Con send hello world. I get hello world back because on message I'm just putting the data back out there. New connection, sending hello world to 0 other connections. So I should be able to open this. And I should be able to put the same data in here. The same instructions in here. And so con send from elsewhere. And that gets here as well. Cool. Connection 86! What determines that ID? Resource ID. Okay. Fair enough. So this is a very, very, very basic demo of WebSockets with Ratchet, which depends on React PHP underneath. But I want to connect these to the same thing, same server. How do I do that? HTTP server takes this HTTP server, Seaboden Ratchet HTTP server. As a constructor, this takes a server interface. Okay, what do the ratchets? What do the ratchets? What do the ratchet docs say about this? HTTP server, my web page. And then this issue was trying to achieve the same thing, which is a HTTP server listening and a chat server listening on the same socket server. This is a terrible, terrible constructor in my opinion. So unclear what's going on. Doesn't seem a very straightforward way to do this, but I'm determined. How does Drift do this? Drift is this framework I was talking about. This does cool stuff like file watching. Oh, come on. I got this earlier, or varnish cache issues earlier. Oh, that bugs me. Request handler. So request handler is like this, I guess. This callback. Oh, that's the static one. Fine. I don't know if this gives me any info, really. Check out the application class. I don't work for myself, Miranza Code. I work for a company called Sanlam Indy, which sells insurance online. It's a cool thing if you're in South Africa. Check it out. Where was I? Not that. This thing here. Oh, not that one either. Where was the app class? This one. I don't know if this handles WebSockets, which is a bit annoying. Yeah, I don't think this handles WebSockets. Yet. It's very new. It's very cool, but it looks very new. So how do we combine these? I mean, the easy answer, I guess, or the simple answer is to have this listen on a different port and then connect to or display the site from port 80 from the HTTP server and handle requests through the WebSockets different port. But where this falls down for me is that there are some use cases where I would like the WebSocket to have the same memory access. Excuse me. The WebSocket server to have the same memory access as the HTTP server. Like if I create a component on an HTTP request, I'd like that component to live in a user session through the communication to the WebSocket server, like Reacty sort of stuff. If you think about Livewire, this is the use case that I'm thinking of, where Livewire components, you return them to an HTTP response and they render some UI and they serialize all of them and send that to the browser. And then when an event happens in the browser, that serialized stuff gets sent via Ajax to the server again, and the whole thing gets hydrated. So you don't have the same internal storage because it's being sent back via the browser. And the tech works well, it's cool, but if we're building our own HTTP server and using WebSockets, we should be able to have them share memory so that we don't have to serialize and hydrate, where we can just say this object that is in memory here for this client, the session ID, this is what we're talking about, and then have like some garbage collection to say, okay, if the session has expired, can all the objects that are in memory for it. There's a little bit of work that has to be done around there for security purposes to stop DDoS attacks, or mitigate them, or make sure that the objects that are hydrated aren't massive, but it would cut down on front-end traffic remarkably, because you could not serialize those objects. You could just say, okay, the object ID that is this with a UUID, call this event, and you don't have to send any state to the browser other than the object ID, which is really cool. I have a prototype for that somewhere with Async PHP. Or yeah, I guess it is with Async PHP, but not with React PHP. So now I have to try and connect the two, which is a bit annoying. Okay, look, cool. This is a good enough go for React PHP. I'll figure that other stuff out in a little bit, but now we have to make Async PHP AMP, I guess. And now we can go close this, and this. I'll leave one of them open. Wait. Oh, I think this is my own domain. That is my own domain. AMPHP. Cool. So similar to the React site, this just lists out its different packages and like a really insubstantial first example. This looks like a telnet example, which I don't want to do. Come on. These are the worst. These are the worst. Okay. Eris. So I don't know what. I mean, apart from Ratchet, I don't know of any sort of large-ish React PHP application skeletons or libraries that do what Eris does, which is package async fs, the event loop, all of that stuff. We saw now from the HTTP client that packages event loop and DNS so that you can do so that you can respond to HTTP requests with all of the nested dependencies required there. Eris does that, plus it adds in WebSockets and file I/O. So this example should be a lot easier to come up with. Pity neither of these things support doing it well from the docs, from the website. That is a great pity. Looks like there is a URL from here though. Okay. So HTTP APIs. Oh, not that one. Come on, get done. See, it's installing lots of stuff. There is some DNS stuff in here. There's parallel execution files, sockets. Yeah, it's even a router in here. Okay, this is what this looks like. Slightly less code, which is largely irrelevant, but this needs to be run through this. So let's go to the console, and this will be source HTTP server. So -d does a development server, -c is the config file to jump into. This is actually serving it at port 80, which I don't want to do. So how do we customize that port? Request bodies, handling uploads, cookies, static routing. Ooh. I don't do any of that stuff. I want to do static routing. There we go. Okay, so use eris host, and then this has a use in here as well. Or I could have just pasted what I had. And so this here we can say is just one level up into the public folder. Okay. Oof. So many bad examples of examples. There we go. This eris root, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So if we run this now, we should have our static file serving. It's still serving on the wrong thing though. I mean, it works, so there's that. I do want to configure it though. Okay, so this is a router where we can do certain request methods and paths, so that's cool. This is some middleware that we can do, static files, that's using our router, and then this is 404 if we have nothing here. So I like that. Except that this is going to respond, so it'll never get to here. So we should probably do, let's get a router in here. And respond with this to get at /. Get rid of the rest of these routes. What is this? So there's body passing, that's cool. But then the second thing, I don't understand why there are two of these things here. I don't understand why there are two of those things there. Anyway, for now, that's fine. So I can use this router in here, probably ahead of public, so if it matches URL, we'll use the router instead. If it doesn't match the URL, it'll look for static files, and finally, it'll look for the 404 response. I think I have to restart it there. So this should say, end on null, res end. Oh, it doesn't reload. It should reload. Okay, there we go. So we've got a router working, we've got a static file, like a public. Let's move these out. Static is that. Let's just make it public instead, because that's a little easier to remember. So routes public, and then 404. Cool. Oh, mixed quotes are the death of me. There we go. A little bit cleaner, I think. So this should still work. We should still have hello world.txt. Not found. Hello world. Ooh, well, that tested all of them then. Cool. Now, how do we add WebSockets on top of this? Should be fairly easy to do. So we have a WebSocket. Woohoo! I gotta say, compared to the React experience, this is a lot better. Once you find the documentation, this is a lot better. Okay, so we've got our clients on construct, make a new SPL storage, on open, clients attach I don't really think I need to use object storage, really, because I'm just dealing with IDs here. So I'll just say it's an empty array, and then array push. So it's slightly different. Okay, new connection on data is the same as this on message. From this connection interface, so that's a whole client connection, right? Yeah. So this is where the message is from. What is the example of message data? Yield message. Cool. Let's do that. How do we do client send? So WS send to client ID or WS broadcast. So I'm going to say just broadcast the content. That's cool. Ooh, you know what I should do is I should check for. I develop things. You raided me so long ago. Thank you for raiding. And with 24 people, that's awesome. Shoo, that's like 30 minutes ago. I should actually keep both of these views open. But thank you for that raid. That's really cool. Hello everyone from that. Okay, cool. I'm actually going to keep that view open. No, not there. How do I... That one. There we go. Okay, now I can see both the chat and activity feed. So I probably won't miss that stuff again, I hope. There we go. So here we go. Client ID, we've got the message that we are... Hello? Oh, I messed with the wrong thing here. Whoops. This is where I'm supposed to do it. Okay, client ID comes in here, message is content, and then We'll just use this WebSocket broadcast. Nope. This WebSocket broadcast with client ID and the content yield text. Okay, cool. So it's kind of the same, kind of on close. Okay, so here we need to do this client is array filter. Anyone remember the argument order for array filter? Array and then callback. Turn client ID not equals next client ID, use client ID because it's not next client ID. Cool. So that gets rid of the detach from an array point of view, and then we can just use this in here. Okay, so routes. I'm going to say WebSockets actually takes priority over routes. Okay, so I wonder if this will start up. I don't see any errors yet. Go back to the home page. Upgrade required! What is the example here? Slash. It's actually not a use, it's at a certain route. That makes a lot of sense. I remember this now actually. Get that, and then the WebSocket server. I already had some of it in. Okay, which is WebSockets. So we need to move this above the router. So we define our WebSockets like this. We have a special route for them. We don't use them as a middleware. But now we should be able to... Oh, I need to refresh the server. Oof, that's going to get old really quickly. Okay, so we've got this up, and now we should be able to paste some funky JavaScript in here. Not like that, though. Not like that. Ooh, it connects. Hello, Bob. Disconnected. What happened? What happened? Broadcast on null. So this WebSocket is endpoint is what I was missing here. Okay. Let's try again. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. We have hello Bob to 0 other connections. Broadcast does not do it to this. It does not appear to do it to this socket. So, which is not bad. It's not bad. But let's change the message to something like you said. Cool. Refresh the server. Damn. Oh, I'm not listening for a message. On message. You said. Cool. So broadcast does do it to the other connections. I can drop that. So how do you limit it from sending to you if you don't want it to you? What does that class offer in the way of broadcast? Eris WebSocket endpoint and amp Eris WebSocket endpoint. Broadcast accept IDs. Very cool. So here you could say broadcast, and in array you could say client ID. Okay, let me restart that. So make the WebSocket, listen for the message, send a message. You said hello Bob. Now if we start this up in a new tab, new WebSocket. That's the wrong WebSocket thing. That's the right one. Oh, so bad. So bad. Okay. You said here, client 166 said here. So this is a WebSocket example. This is a WebSocket example with an HTTP server in AMP. Oh, silence. Yeah, I kind of got into the habit of using Safari because I work on an iMac at home, and I work at home like 80% of the week. But when I'm in the office for a couple days a week for like 4 hours each, then I work on a MacBook Air, and that is terrible for running Chrome. And I haven't, before Safari I used Chrome. I haven't really used Firefox in a long time. So I just got in the habit of it for the MacBook Air, and then got used to using it on the iMac as well. I actually like the UI. It's like a little bit leaner than Chrome's UI, default UI. There are some things I hate, like if you launch a separate window, you get all of the pinned tabs from all of the other windows that you have, which is awful. Yeah, Safari's extension stuff is a lot more restrictive, I think, than Chrome's. Chrome actually has a lot of really cool APIs, or Chromium even. Chromium is the only browser, as far as I understand, that has the MIDI API protocol, and I wanted to use that to connect to a MIDI keyboard, which I don't have around me, or I'd show it, but to connect to a MIDI keyboard so that when I press a key on the MIDI keyboard, I can listen for those events in Chromium and then do stuff with them, like play music. But the reason that the other browsers don't support it is because part of that spec is a command that you can run to flash the MIDI device, which is obviously a security nightmare. But I was thinking maybe I could use Electron, and maybe that API is exposed. Yeah, so maybe that API is exposed in Electron, so I could make an Electron app that I could use to connect the MIDI keyboard with. And there was this cool React.js example that I saw a while back of a visual keyboard. So I've been kind of playing around in my head building something with Electron for MIDI keyboards. But yeah, other than a lot of really cool cutting edge APIs and a lot of freedom with extensions, there's not that much I miss from Chrome. I still have Chrome installed to, obviously, for testing and for React Native Dev, because I think it's like really complicated to connect React Native Dev tools to Safari. It's possible, as far as I'm aware, but really complicated. So I still use Chrome for that. But in general, Safari seems fine. Yeah, it's got a console, whatever. So back to this code example, and with 5 minutes left, I think that the AMPHP or Async PHP example is a lot better than the React.js example. For starters, I don't have to use a significantly different project like Ratchet to do WebSockets than just using the React PHP HTTP server. So that's the first thing. Like I think it would be possible, because I've seen it happen before, to run. Maybe the goal is just to run the HTTP server through Ratchet and forget React's HTTP server. But then you jump through hoops every time you have to use a React compatible async library. You jump through hoops again to try and get that compatible with Ratchet. So I'd prefer to try and like weasel Ratchet back into React PHP's HTTP server and event loop, because that's what it's using under the hood. I just have to look at the internals of Ratchet a bit more. Also, finding how these things fit together, it seemed a lot easier from Async PHP's examples once I found the docs. I don't think the docs are very handily exposed on either of the sites. I think React PHP's site looks a little bit better. This looks nice, but this isn't even useful, because what do you compose or require here? That's a huge thing, right? You can't just, it's cool having this example here to show, but you can't run this example because you don't know what to include. So yeah. Anyway, this is using both of these libraries. There was another one that's extension based, PHP extension async. Async. Swool. I don't generally like Swool because I think their marketing is so aggressive, and they completely disregard what the other frameworks are doing or have been around to do, and their stability and all those things. So I'm not really a super fan of this, but I do need to cover it in that course. It looks like callback based async. So there are two kind of flavors of async. You can do promise based with closures for the functionality that you execute out of order, and you can do coroutine based, which they might have an example of here. It's basically using yield inside callbacks, but I don't know. Yeah, so this is a I don't know what the word is for it, but it's like, so Swool, as far as I understand, is an extension that you install, and it gives you some new primitives like their take on coroutines, which do run async, but completely transparently at a language level, so you don't know if the thing you're running is synchronous or asynchronous, or parallel. So that's a little bit, I'm not too much a fan of that. I like the AMP way of doing this. I don't know if there's going to be, there we go, maybe, yeah. So I like the AMP way of doing this, which is where you yield, so it's very clear this is an async call. I really like that over just a transparent call to an extension-based coroutine primitive. Anyway, I'll need to dive into this and see what's possible with it. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it there for tonight. I wanted to do a Monday stream. It's Monday where I am here. I wanted to do a Monday stream because I was away last week, and the place I was away to didn't have good internet, which I only found out once I was there. So I missed like 3 streams last week. But I will be back here tomorrow night doing some more Git store work. So this was a little bit of prep. I need to go away and do a bit of polish to these examples that I've done and figure out a bit of a curriculum. But I will come back to this async course stuff maybe Thursday or else next week. So tomorrow is going to be a Git store stream. It'll be here the same time I started today. Thanks, Silence. Thanks for being here, everyone who chatted. Thank you, Danats, for following. Thanks again for the host. I develop things, and for being in chat. That's really cool. So if you're keen, come join me tomorrow, same time as I started today, so like an hour ago, but tomorrow. And yeah, I dig PHP stuff too. Cool. So that's it. Let me see who's on that I can host.